Adam, great to see you as always, and thanks for giving me a bit of time. And I appreciate you coming on to talk about what you're doing. So, I just want to kick off with something. I googled you the other day, and you came up as London's sexiest man. What is going on there?
Oh, well, I mean, it's pretty obvious, first and foremost, right? I mean, you
Is
can't
it?
sort
It's not
of,
obvious
yeah, I
to
mean,
me.
some of these facts, it's an obvious fact that I'd be the London sexiest man. No, I think, that's quite where I think a lot of people know me from. I get a lot of attention in regards to, not from people actually searching that. I mean, surely no one actually searches that in their own time, but in my industry, and I often do public speaking events where I'll show it. The whole purpose of that is fundamentally Google is an ecosystem, it's an algorithm, and fundamentally, if you know how to manipulate that algorithm, then you can push whatever agenda or whatever message that you want. And that can be used for good, and it can also be good used for bad. I sometimes have a problem because I don't trust Google. I don't see it as somewhere where I can get actually non-biased information from, and because I know how easy it is to manipulate. So fundamentally, the way that I achieved that, like I said, it was just a way of showing people just how easily Google can be manipulated and things can be framed, agendas can be pushed. What I would say is I believe I'm second or third behind Jeremy Clarkson and Piers Morgan. So I think my goal probably for the back end of this year will be to push to number one. But it's pretty good company to be in, though, right? Surely I've got to be the best looking out of those three. Surely.
Well, it wouldn't be harder to be better looking than Clarkson, that's for certain. But anyway, well, I mean, one of the things that's interesting about that is that, I mean, you manipulate Google, if you like, for clients professionally. I mean, tell us about the ethics around that, because, as you've just said, it is something that can be misused. So tell us about how you sort of see the ethics around that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things which I have with SEO is I'm a very, very transparent person. I can be very disagreeable when working with customers and businesses. I think you need to have a moral code as to what you want to push, what you deem acceptable. Because yeah, you can push things. I mean, it was a lot easier to push some of those agendas 10 years ago than it is now. Google's a little bit better at being able to deal with that stuff. But I think you do need a moral code. I pitch that down to my team on the customers that we work with. There's things that we can do, right? So, for example, if I took on a customer, if I really, really wanted to, I could go after their competitors with things like what's called negative SEO. So, I could, if I was really wanted to mess up people's brand and website, I could really damage their by doing what's called negative SEO. So, I think it really comes down to what side of the fence that you sit on. There's two forms of SEO. There's white hat SEO and there's black hat SEO. And it's quite funny actually because both sides completely hate each other. Like seriously, like you go to events, people will get in fights over this sort of stuff. It's wild, right? So I think it's about what your own moral compass is and keeping your own ethics and being able to sleep easy at night if you want to do that really. So
And in terms of your business, I mean, what is it you're trying to achieve exactly? I mean, give us a sense of
of course.
what is it you want to do, and how are you using technology to achieve to do that?
Of course. So my background, so I've been in around web and SEO for probably 16 years. I sold my first website when I was 16 to an Indian restaurant. And so I was a bit like a nerdy Dell boy, just like going around like these sort of like mom and pop businesses selling like £500 website here and something over here. And then I became a developer for quite a large agency, and then I ran a full service agency for about 5 years. And what I found in that period was I always had an affinity with SEO. I liked the way it's probably the antisocial side of me that I can sit behind a screen, do things, and it really be able to project a message. It can manipulate algorithms, you can rank specific things, and you can generate business and leads basically on tap. Like I love that. I love being able to. I think SEO is one of the biggest equalizers, right? Because you can literally appear above like a Fortune 500 company for phrases, and you can battle against them, but you could just be a guy sat at home doing it in his pajamas. So I always loved that about SEO. I decided in the middle of COVID. I decided that the businesses which survived COVID, who were my customers, who survived COVID the best, all had SEO with me. And I feel like SEO is a great equalizer because you're not paying for per traffic. It's pretty battle hardened by way of if you do things right, it's in perpetuity. Granted, there's algorithm updates and you can get knocked off, but it's not like your budget stops and then everything falls off a cliff. And the customers who I had SEO relationships with just seemed to like sail through that period very, very well, the large majority, versus the ones who were doing things like direct marketing, pay-per-click ads, advertising, all of that type of stuff. They seem to have a much harder time. So I didn't have the greatest relationship with my old business partner towards the end. It would be one of those common stories. So I thought, you know what, mid-COVID, there's no time like the present. So I sold up my shares and went, I'm just going to solely focus on SEO. Businesses in this new economy now need an expert in one core competency. They don't need a jack of all trades. There's so many jack of all trades. And I feel like that COVID period really just like it just escalated how fast this like progression of change is. Obviously, what we're seeing even now, work from home, remote, all the rest of it. So the purpose why I set up in SEO, just going back to the original question, but I wanted to give that background was because I had this unique perspective of being in and around SEO, seeing how it's badly sold, seeing how like non-transparent people are, seeing how people will take people's money and not do very much. So I feel like I had a really unique perspective. Not being an SEO, but then coming into SEO after being around it for a long time.
Mm.
So I was really frustrated with how chaotic and inconsistent the SEO industry had become. I feel like agencies have basically got a rap of over-promising, under-delivering, and basically leaving businesses in the dark. So my mission and the agency's mission wasn't just to rank websites, it was to build a global growth engine that basically fixes that broken model. So highly transparent, highly productized, building that right ecosystem to meet businesses where they are and actually solve problems for them rather than just taking a retainer and sending them a automated report once at the end of the month.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get that, and I can see why. I mean, obviously, I know you. I mean, I can see why that's important to you. Let me ask you this. I mean, the way I see the CEO's role is that
Yeah.
the CEO is central to the delivery of impact. I mean, I know you have other people that help you do things, but it's the CEO really that is the person that drives that impact. I mean, what does being a CEO mean to you?
This is something I think I've struggled with. And I believe I struggle with it because if I take the C off CEO and replace it with S, I'm an SEO. And I think I struggled with that and it's held me back. And I feel I think before I was a web developer who was running a full service agency, and then I became an SEO who was running an SEO agency. And I feel like it's only the last 3 or so years where I've really started to embrace the fact that no, I should be a CEO. I should act like a CEO. So I would say the core things that I try and focus on personally is setting the vision for the business, charting the course and putting in place the guardrails. I spoke before to you about, moral compass.
Yeah,
What's the core values, what I want to push down? What will I accept and not accept? Like we hired someone who was quite qualified and they really badmouthed, like maybe a week and a half in, one of my freelance employees or freelance contractors from the Philippines who'd been with me for 4 years, right? Wouldn't listen to her. She was trying to show him, how to do this process. He thought he knew best, way more overqualified. I just let the guy go instantly because it's like, I don't want that. Like when someone turned up to me after they've worked for me for years and they're in tears, whether they're a freelancer or not, or based in the Philippines or not, I'm just not going to set that. So I think it's setting those standards for yourself internally, building the machine and not working in it. I think we're all, including me, are in danger of working within the business. And there's so much noise. You can just be distracted by noise the whole time. And before you know it, a year's gone by and you've not really achieved much. You've just put fires out. And I think the last thing is protecting your team's focus. So making sure that they don't get shiny object syndrome, making sure that you have the right systems in place, processes in place, to be able to manage them and get the best output from them without micromanaging and without being a control freak. So I would say they're the top three things I would consider as important to be as a CEO. What
yeah.
do you think?
Well,
You've got a lot more
it's
experience than me.
interesting. You a lot of that is about focus, isn't it? And I absolutely
Yeah.
agree with you about that. And like you, I I'm easily distracted by things that interest me, which is a bad trait really, because to get ahead, you've got to be focused. I mean, I've learned that one lesson, perhaps. Let me ask you about something else. I mean, being the CEO, running the business, I mean, it's a bit of a roller coaster, isn't it? I mean, there's good days, there's bad days,
Yeah.
everything in between. I mean, what is it about your mission that kind of gets you out of bed and enthusiastic and getting out there, right? What is it that motivates you to ride that roller coaster, I guess?
I think a lot of my motivation comes from probably probably traumas, or I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a lot of them I think have maybe dark pasts, or yeah, and the reason I always liked the entrepreneur type approach was the fact that it allowed me to just go completely head first into something
Right.
that I can be fully in control of. No one can dictate things to me. I will run the company my way. I know it might seem a little bit dictatory, but I think that has always been really, really critical to who I see myself as and to be able to build the life and live the life that I want. So I would say maybe from a selfish point of view, I was always sort of destined I was a terrible employee. And I was good at what I did and I was quick and efficient and I would say I was very good, but I was an absolute nightmare to manage. So, and I would hate to manage me like now. So I think what gets me up though, there has to be a vision. It has to be, I love my team. Like I love being able to have a team of really talented people who we can bounce ideas off and who I can help them grow as well. That's a massive motivation for me. And I think the last motivation as well is seeing the customers succeed. It sounds very, very cheesy, but I do feel like people get into this sort of business and stuff with the wrong reason. And that has to be paramount, I think, is taking absolute pride in what you do and making sure that your customers get the results or that you try your damnedest to get those customers the results. You're not always going to be 100% right. I mean, as an SEO, the real sad thing about SEO, I think, is it takes a long time to work. And sometimes customers just they lose faith and they jump off the journey maybe a little bit too early. And the other times is at the end of the day, there's no proven formula to this. So I would say one of the best SEOs I know in the world, he put it best, which he said, the job of a really good SEO is to be right 8 out of 10 times. So there's always going to be that, but I always very transparent with customers. Like there is always that variable that you can't always guarantee that you can sort of overcome. So I think it's to try and deliver that and try and be ethical and try and help people out, try and help businesses out and help people along the way. I think that's really what motivates me, to be honest with you.
Sure. Okay. And a lot of CEOs I speak to have particular routines that they associate with doing things. I mean, do you have any of those kind of routines?
I, so I think this is one of the things which so my girlfriend currently has started her business in January. And she used to do sales, right? And one of the things which I said to her is, and I kind of reiterate to her now, is like, don't make the same mistakes I did. Like, you're not a salesperson anymore. You're a business owner. And there's so many different buckets of things that your focus has to be on. You can't just focus on sales. You can't just focus on, ops. You can't just focus on delivery. Like, you have to be able to divide your time. So it's something that I think, notoriously been pretty bang average at. And I think it's important to know that. I think a lot of people who fit into that sort of visionary CEO founder type role aren't always the most organized people because our brains fire off on different signals. So one of the things I was saying to her is like what I've been finding helpful to me is break your days down into buckets. So for example, Monday might be every single day has maybe a 3 or 4 hour completely phone off. No one's contacting me. No, I'm not there. And to try and have one focused chunk of 3 or 4 hours per day on each bucket. So maybe Monday might be sales, Tuesday might be delivery and ops, Wednesday might be accounts, Thursday might be partnerships. I feel like that is a very, very good way of making progress on all fronts.
So blocking, what you're saying is you block out time to really get jobs done, get stuff done.
Block out time and categorize the days based on say the 4 or 5 most important buckets that I need to focus on right now. Yeah, I
Sure.
would say that works.
And you've mentioned the importance of a team. I mean, give us your thoughts on getting the right people on the bus. I mean, how do you get the right people involved in what you're doing?
So I was speaking to someone the other day actually who just exited a really, really successful escape game company. We went to Oasis together in London, and so he just exited, and we were having a chat because he's just about to raise some money for a new venture, and I was saying to him like, what would you have done different 5 years ago with that business? And we both had the same sort of realization because I had the same thing as well, which is just save yourself the absolute headache and just hire the best people for the job that you can absolutely afford. It's so much better to have one good employee than four sort of mediocre ones. I know it sounds really harsh, but it's something that I've learned internally. So that's the first thing that I would definitely say because I think I've probably over the years tried to yeah, I think budget is a big thing as well. Like you have a budget, you've got things that you need to do. You can't just go out and get the best people, but there's other things that you can sell people on, like a vision. It's why the ability to be able to persuade and communicate is so important. You might not be able to offer as much of a salary, but you can offer vision, you can offer perks, right? So I would say try and acquire the best complementary skill sets that you can. It will make your life a lot easier. I actually have a team structure now, which I think if I was to ever run more businesses, it would be largely on that team structure, which would be, I think, every good business or small. Our goal is to not have tons of employees. So I won't be ashamed to say we had to make quite a few redundancies, but I think that a lot of businesses are doing that now. I don't think redundancy needs to be seen as a business failure. At the end of the day, the world's changed now. AI is here, things are streamlined, and if you don't pivot, you're going to get left behind, or worst case, have no business there whatsoever. So really the way we're trying to set up now is visionary or founder slash CEO. I need an operations person because that's just where I'm weakest. I'm weakest doing the things what you just said, which was, making sure you do this every day, what routines you do, make sure these spreadsheets are filled in, etc. So I think having an incredible operations manager who has goes through everything with a fine tooth comb is really, really important. I think having what I call a growth expert or a customer success manager to be able to handle the customers, that retention, reduce churn. And then I would say having a manager and a doer. So having a manager to be able to handle the doer in the team. So the doer should be sort of a good all-rounder who can do a lot. Having one core manager who can manage them, but then also they are able to then manage freelancers, partners, contractors. So that would be my core team. And I ideally don't want to hire anyone else into that core team. I want to basically build outsource contracted pods of delivery so that we can be able to do that. And I think that that core team allows for that ability and that flexibility to work lean.
And how do you, I mean, the other thing that interests me is that, I mean, although it's easier when you've got a small team than a big team, I mean, you've still got to create an environment in which people can rub along okay, people can
Yeah.
perform effectively, you know, conflict and tensions can be managed. I mean, what's your take on creating an environment in which
Mm.
people can perform?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think one of the reasons why I'm an absolute terrible, would be a terrible employee is because I'm extremely transparent and honest. But I think one of the reasons I would say I'm a relatively good founder in my own way, I'm sure there's a lot of people who could make more money than me and all the rest of it. But one of the things is I've only ever in this company had one employee actually hand in their notice, which I think is a really, really great thing. It's actually something I've been quite proud about. And I feel that that fundamentally has come down to the fact that I'm extremely transparent, I'm extremely honest, I'm extremely direct with the things that need to be said and done. But it's done in a way which is empathetic, and I think done in a way with the whoever the employee's best interests are at heart. And I feel like that builds a level of trust. I think that the team know that we won't stand for bullies. I don't care if you're the most talented person in the world. Like if you speak to anyone disrespectfully, like I'm not up for that. I think trying to find people who gel together, trying to get people in the same room, because obviously we're a remote agency, so trying to get people into the same room, at least the UK based team as much as we can. Like the other day we went to a client pitch, got the team together to go to that, go for food, etc. And then just daily interactions in Slack and all of that. But it's hard. I mean, my old business, we had an office, right? Pre-COVID, we had an office. Everyone got together. We all went out for drinks and played snooker or pool or darts and all the rest of it. You can't do that now. So yeah, it definitely has its challenges. So I would say transparency and honesty throughout the team is probably the best way to run things.
Yeah. And are there any particular things that keep you awake at night in terms of running a team like that?
Yeah, HR. because my operations manager, she calls me a HR nightmare. So I think that I think the sad thing about, I don't know whether it's just the UK, it probably is leaning towards a lot, is we're so overly regulated as businesses. Like, it's like, what is actually nicer? Me being extremely transparent with an employee and saying, look, this is the real deal. This is exactly how I'm thinking. Or instead going down sort of the HR playbook so that I can't get sued at the end of it for whatever it is. And then, you know, you've got to sort of do that. Like, they know that you want to get rid of them. I know that I want to get rid of them. And then you've got to go through this weird sort of, structure where we have these calls and, I actually don't want them to achieve. It's just like this massive red tape. And I just don't think it does anyone any favors. So I would say HR keeps me awake at night sometimes, but so far so good. But we'll see, I
Yeah, I'm
suppose.
sure you're not the only person that is kept awake by those sorts of issues. So
Yeah.
let me just, I mean, your world, the SEO world, I mean, there's a lot of competition in that world. What would you say are the distinctive capabilities that you've developed in your business that give you an edge? I mean, what is it that helps you stay ahead of the competition?
Yeah, I think it's a very great question. So in my world, I would say 90% of SEOs just aren't very good at SEO. A lot of people who sell SEO, that you'll notice they have like an agency, right? And they'll be selling lots of different things, and then they sell SEO as well because it's nice, it's recurring, people don't even know what they're buying. It's a great model, right? But I think it's given SEOs a lot of bad names. So I would say actually to be good at SEO, the fundamental key is for me is to make sure that I'm around the right people in the industry. It's really funny because some of the most successful SEOs, I mean, the people who make tens to hundreds of millions of pounds per year from SEO, nearly none of them own agencies. They are all in like affiliate or e-commerce or gambling niches or whatever else. So my big thing has always been, and I think it is to stay as close to those people as possible and to learn the most cutting edge strategies and then bring it back to our customers. So that's one of the core things that I would say. I would say a lot of businesses, they're offering SEO, they're hiring someone, on 30 grand a year to deliver the SEO. That person is just, they've watched some YouTube videos. They're not in those circles because a lot of those circles are private and they're very, very hard to get into. So I'd say that's one of the core things. I think the second thing is the way that we've productized the service. We're very, very transparent. So I think I was saying to you before the call, we've been using things like AI to build an internal dashboards and that we can give to clients, and we're very transparent with our clients as to what we're doing, why we're doing it, how to track it, what's the business impact. We're doing SEO for an outcome, not to just do SEO. And I feel like that helps us stay ahead of the competition because it just cuts out the nonsense. Most SEO agencies, they deliver at best or automatically generated reports through systems, or they're sending these crazy spreadsheets to people and just drowning people in data. And then the people are, because it's the marketing manager, they just carry on spending the money because they just don't, they're too scared to stop it. So our big thing is, again, same with what I have with the employees: transparency, honesty, what SEO is, what it isn't, what the expectations. And I think if you do that, then you'll be in the top 5% of SEO agencies, to be honest with you.
Sure. And I'd just like to talk about, international, because you've got clients from all over the place, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, what's your take on entering new markets? I mean, some people I talk to spend a huge amount of money on research, and they, spend a lot of time going out to the US or wherever they're targeting. Other people just say, "Oh, I've got a client there. I just follow me nose." I mean, where would you be on that spectrum? What's your take on market entry strategy, if you like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I was speaking actually at the meeting I had the other day. I was pitching so we've been working with them. They're one of our largest clients. They do these sort of really high-end corporate presentation training, and I was speaking to them about um, making it extremely accessible for people to inquire to you, having multiple ways of getting people to inquire. And they'll go, no, 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 we don't want this WhatsApp chat. And literally, it was like it was perfect, to be honest, because they're on about, we want to go global, we want to go US, we don't want to just be focused on UK. And it was like perfect timing because my WhatsApp business pinged off, and it was a jeweler, based in, I can't remember where, somewhere in like Germany. who's about to launch this brand and they need this, they need that. And I was saying, like, this is the perfect example of how SEO is it can be a global activity, a global marketing activity, because there's no borders on it, right? You can pretty much SEO anywhere in the world. If I really wanted to, I could rank my website or a version of my website in Poland or Russia or,
Mm.
or America or whatever it is. So I think the great thing about SEO is if you understand how to manipulate those algorithms, you can pretty much launch into any area. Why that's, I think, quite good for global is because what we're able to do is we can do a lot of research behind the scenes. So I always say to people with SEO that it should be data driven. There should be data there. So, for example, we could quite easily look at the search volumes and the trends in Spain, for example, and versus Germany, and be able to really do a fag packet or back of is it the fag packet analysis to be able to just go, okay, total search volume for this niche is 250,000 searches per month. If I can get say a 15% click-through rate from that with a 2% conversion rate, this is how, it's very, very easy to be able to just do some real simple math and be able to pick up on the fact of what the actual business opportunity size is before you then go into it. One of the great things about SEO is the fact, like, I can start building that background and doing that analysis. I don't even need to do the SEO. I could then go and step two, go, right, the data's there. Step two, run a paid social campaign or a Facebook campaign, paid ads, whatever, and just go and prove that concept, prove that analysis. And then once I've proven the analysis or the hypothesis that I say, I can then undertake, I say, a 6 to 12 month campaign to be there and be dominating it within a reasonable 6 to 12 month time frame. But I'm always then being able to go, okay, I've done the analysis beforehand, I've proven the concept, I've proven my hypothesis with paid ads, and then now I can undertake the SEO. Because one of the crazy things what people don't realize is the SEO, we rank for London, UK, all of that stuff. We rank in the US as well. Um, in order to acquire that traffic through paid ads, I would need a $800,000 uh, a year budget to spend on Google AdWords, and I acquire it through organic for my agency for completely free. So it's insane the economies of scale if you do SEO correctly to enter markets.
Yeah. And one of the other things that interests me about international work is that there are quite a lot of interesting differences between markets. I mean, doing business in Berlin very different from doing business in Singapore or New York or whatever. I mean, what's your take on kind of managing those
Yeah.
cultural
Mm.
differences? I mean, and I guess what I'm getting at is, do you need to localize, for want of a better word, your operation in different countries to recognize those cultural differences? I mean, how does that work in your world?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I think one of the things we're only a small agency, but I think one of the things that we've been able to do is build this network of, we call it Ignite partners, but fundamentally what it means is they're tried and tested freelancers, right? And everything that we do within our business is, like I said, we've productized it. We have processes, and then what we'll be able to do is, not as well as doing it internally and deliver it, we'll make sure that we have a roster of freelancers who are tested against those individual tasks, right? Now, when you do that and you set the business up in that sort of way, it means that we can find freelancers from all different areas of the world. So we can find talented people from the UK, Europe, Eastern Europe, Latin America, Philippines, India, whatever it may be. And we all have different price points for those as well. So what might be delivered in Europe for £150 might be delivered in, the Philippines for £10 or £15, right? So, but by building that sort of set of partnerships, although it takes a long time to set up because you'll get a lot of time wasters, you'll get a lot of people who, they say they can do something and they can't do it.
Mm.
Once you have that quality assurance there, it gives you voices all over the world. And it's very, very easy then for us to be able to find and to be able to use those contacts to be able to liaise with people, or to be able to do some fact finding on specific locations, or, like you said, to localize communication in those areas. So it's that we're definitely not the best at it, but I do definitely feel like, having a contact in the US is great to bring on when I'm speaking to customers in the US. Having a contact in, Estonia is great to bring on when I'm dealing with someone in Eastern Europe or whatever it may be. So, yeah, I would say, like, having that I think the great thing is about having a remote agency is there's no limit on talent, right? It's like I'm not trying to find people within 20 miles of an office. I can find people anywhere. So I think building those contacts and relationships is just so important.
Yeah. And in terms of those partners, I mean, in building relationships, I mean, everyone says build good relationships. I mean, why would you want to build bad relationships? I mean, you wouldn't, would
It's
you?
true.
But it's very easy to say, it's much more difficult to do. I mean, what's your take on relationship building, negotiating with people in those situations? I mean, what's your view of that and how that process works?
I think by creating what we called Ignite SEO partners rather than you're a freelancer and you now work with us. One of the core areas in order to be able to become a partner, once you become a partner, sign the NDA and all the rest of it, we have our individual products. In order for you to be able to do one of those tests on one of those products, you have to do it for 50% off the first time because it's a test run. So if you want to be considered to run one of these audits that we can then run the audit, test you for it, and go, you know what, this person can do that specific task. The upfront is that you're going to have to have one, gone through a little interview with us so we can see who you are, and two, you're going to have to the first time do it for 50% off. And I know people might not like that, but at the end of the day, I think it's a very, very good commitment to see, is this person here, are they willing to work with us on that? Do they have a long-term vision here where they go, you know what, I could work with Ignite for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, or are they, no, I want to be paid right now, it needs to be, and that to me is like a massive thing. I always remember like hiring videographers to record talks, and they all of a sudden you get the invoice at the end and they've charged you an extra £15 because they did an extra 10 miles of journey and they've put on their meal deal on it. And it just always infuriated me because that's not the way I want to build businesses. Like if I'm building that relationship, we're providing them potentially just a full service or source of work in that locality or wherever else, then initially they should be able to meet us halfway as well as us meeting them halfway. So I actually think that's a great way that we've been able to completely just get rid of people who aren't even, they're there just for the cash, and that's great, but there's a million and one of those people. So I want people to be able to have that long-term vision to want to work with us over the long run.
Let me just turn to some of the things that you've learned. I mean, we've talked previously about, what it's like being a CEO and, how often things go wrong and how you have to keep learning all the time. I mean, what would you say is the biggest failure you've had and how did it reshape you?
Yeah, it's very interesting because, like I said, I ran a full service agency for 5 years, and I think after 2 years, I knew it was the wrong thing for me. I went into it when I was 21, 22, and it was the classic case of, I think, I don't know, I think it's the security of it, because with a business partner who was already very successful. He had multiple businesses. This was just another type business, and I'd own 40% of it. He'd have control of it, but I think it's very easy to get caught up with that and go, "Oh, this is great because I can run my own business, and also, I can rely on this already successful person to bring in business and make my business a success as with theirs." I think that was a big mistake because you end up with sort of golden handcuffs, because you get this very fixed, you've got like there's a safety blanket there, which actually was definitely not what I needed, I think, at the time. I think one of the most important lessons I could give to anyone is keep equity in your company, unless you absolutely have to give it away, because I think there's just so much now around going, do seed funding and raise money through this, and, give away so much of your business through this. And the reality is when you have that, you are fundamentally you have to answer to someone else, right? And you're taking a gamble on it. And once that goes bad, it's like the worst breakup that you can ever have. And I think the last thing that I would say in regards to that was, make sure if you are going to get a business partner, make sure that they are on a specific part, make sure that where they are on their journey aligns with where you are in your journey. Doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be successful and have loads of cash, and you don't. I don't mean by that, but I mean in regards to vision, how driven they are. Because what I found was actually there was no drive from that part, because He's already making his millions every year. He has all of these business being successful. And then now I'm basically doing all of this work and all of this, basically churning away every day for 40p out of every pound. So I think that was a big thing. And then for me, it created an era of, annoyance. And I think it really built up over time. And I ended up wasting another 3 years trying to make it work. So I would say just be get the biggest business lesson or failure, just be very careful who you go into business with, make sure that it aligns, make
I
sure you have an
certainly
exit plan.
I
Yeah.
certainly agree with that. You've got to
Yeah.
be really careful who you go into business with. Muhammad Ali famously said, you don't lose by being knocked down, you lose by staying down.
Mm.
Have you ever felt completely knocked out?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think the life of a founder or CEO it's a pretty lonely one. I feel like it's glorified a lot
Yeah,
on
at the moment.
TV and
Yeah.
yeah, heavily glorified. I think people present a an illusion of it, like you can do whatever you want in your own time, and I wouldn't be without it personally because it's really integral to my own self-identity. But what I would say to people is be very careful what you wish for because when your self identity, which unfortunately I try and pull away from, is so heavily
Yeah.
intertwined with your business, when your business starts to go and fail, you feel rock bottom, you feel like a loser, a failure, you feel embarrassed. Now, I think that that's the sort of thing that people don't really get is you fail publicly and like spectacularly. So I would say that making the redundancies was pretty hard for me. I took that very personally, like I'd failed, the employees that I made redundant. I don't think that, but I think that it was an important step in my journey to realize that fundamentally your priority is the business. Your priority is that keeping that alive, making sure that you live to fight another day, and knowing when to pivot. I think is one of the greatest skills that you can have. I think people misconstrue what pivoting is and when to pivot, but I think not being able to give up is a very key attribute. You have to be able to get knocked down, feel sorry for yourself, and then get back up and go, no, we're going to go again. We're going to go again. Right? What have I learned? How am I going to do this? How am I going to change this time? And just keep plodding away because I think a lot of people are going to give up just that inch too soon. So I would say the pursuit of it is worthy of going after. Just be careful what you wish for because I would say the first decade is pretty brutal, to
Yeah.
be honest.
Let me
So
let me pick up your point about pivoting because
yeah,
come back to what I was saying about CEOs earlier on. I mean, the only person that can organize a pivot, if you like, is the CEO. I mean, if
yeah,
you're in an organization and you're the operations director or whatever, I mean, that's not what you do. I mean, the CEO does that with the board. In a smaller business, you might do it with your top team, but essentially, that's another thing that it's a very specific skill set
mm.
that CEOs need to develop. What's your take? I mean, you just talked about how learning when to pivot and how to pivot was pretty critical. I mean, just give us your take on that specific process.
So it's I think people, like I said, I think people misconstrue what pivoting is, and let's pivot because it sounds good. But I think there's a great book actually called The Lean Startup
Mm.
that I read maybe 9 months ago, and and I think in that he there's a chapter on pivoting, and I'd recommend anyone reads that. And for me, a big part of it was like deep in your gut when you just know. It's like you've created so many systems and processes to have done something, and your gut is telling you like this isn't the wrong way. This isn't the right way of doing it. And I think one of the big things for me was where I went, you know what, I've gave everything towards this. I've tried every solution. I've not just fell at the first hurdle. And then to really put your head above the parapet. And the question I asked myself was, if I was to build this company today, would I have built it this way? And I remember the answer being like, no, it wouldn't be. The way that I would have built this company is the way that like we're now building now. And I think that was the thing to me to go that we need to pivot because it's either that or we're going to go out of business. So like a slow decline. You have to. It's a real good skill, and I think probably I reckon people pivot too early sometimes, and they're only one because I think you've got that shiny object syndrome, right? Where it's like I think people personally do that all the time. It's like they have that, they get into a new business, it's all like this, and then they crash down, and then they're trying to fix it. And then probably just before they're about to get to a point where they'll get some good success, they go and go, oh, let's start an AI startup instead. And then they go through this 18-month process again and then again and again. So I think being able, yeah, that line of staying in things too long, I throughout my life, both relationships in business and personal, I have a tendency of staying in things too long. So I think that's really important to be able to look inwardly and go, like, when am I just staying in this because it's of insecurities, or where am I staying in this because I'm being
Sunk
blind
cost,
or I don't want to give up?
sunk cost fallacy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, precisely.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. In terms of, I mean, what would you say? I mean, let's just talk about the flip side to the kind of the things going wrong bit that we've just been talking about. I mean, what are the things you're most proud of, the achievements you're most proud of so far?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm very proud of the core team that we have. I really do feel that the core team that we have now are all A players within the industry. I think they would be able to take nearly any business and be able to have a massive positive impact on that. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the way that we work, our attention to detail, our approach, our transparency. I'm very proud of that. I'm also pretty proud about what we've done in a relatively short amount of time. You know, we're able to really compete with, London agencies. I think we rank pretty much, we outrank most London agencies, which is very good. And a lot of these agencies, they have 100 men, 50 or 100 men teams. They have massive offices in the center of London. You know, we're able to outrank them. We don't have any office. We're a completely remote, lean team. So I'm very proud of that. Yeah, so I think they're the sort of internal things that I'm quite proud of, and also just keeping us plodding on. You know, I think it's a hard, challenging world we're all living in right now, and I feel like that adaptability is, and still being in the fight is, yeah, you've got to have that. Going back to the boxing reference, right? It's like, yeah, you get knocked down, and if you can get back up, who knows? You might be able to pull off a
Yeah.
shock at the end. So
Yeah.
you've got to be in the fight to be able to at the end of the
You
day.
need to
And if
win
you
it,
give
as
up,
they
then
say. Yeah.
precisely.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of other things. How is AI? I
Mhm.
mean, it's all the rage at the moment. Everyone's talking about it. I mean, it seems to me your industry could be really quite significantly affected by AI. I mean, give us your take on the way that's going to shake down over the next few years.
Yeah, it's a great question. So a search is going to change completely because obviously with the way Google works right now, people have been sort of I guess trained over the last 20 years to really simplify their search. Joiner near me, for example, dog walker, near me. Whereas now people might put instead, into ChatGPT or into AI mode in Google, I'm looking for a dog walker in Coventry who specializes with dogs with high anxiety, for example. That wouldn't have been able to have been searched. You wouldn't have been able to find those things. Even probably 4 or 5 years ago, it brought up really, really odd queries. So that ecosystem is changing. For us, I think the fundamental principles of how we run our SEO campaigns will stay evident and stay prominent no matter whether there's AI or not, which is basically stop trying to game the system. So everything that we do is around a few core elements, a few core sort of ideas. One is build brand. Make it look to AI and Google like you're the most trustworthy, real business in the industry who has a proven track record because they have reviews on all of these third-party websites and you have PR saying that you're this and you're an expert commentator on this and you've got blah all of this, right? So build brand, right? That's the same AI, ChatGPT, all those things that fundamentally they're making when they are answering a query, they're going, what is the answer which gives us the highest probability of being correct? So I'd say build brand, build trust. Second thing, thought leadership. How do you position yourself as a thought leader, either via your content, via your website, via your features online? I think them two core principles are always going to stay the same. Build brand, thought leadership, and be featured online. I think if you do those things, you'll appear well. I mean, our AI visibility is absolutely brilliant. So I think if you can do those core fundamentals, then you'll be able to sail through a lot of the AI a lot of the AI challenges which are going to be coming, a lot of the old SEO tactics like just blog every single month are dead, and I wouldn't waste your time with them. There has to be an overarching strategy. So yeah, that would be my but I think, this right now, like you have one of the greatest opportunities
Mm.
that's ever existed to be able to use these tools, adapt, manipulate these tools, figure out how AI works, right? And position your business there because your competition are going to be so slow at adopting these sort of things. So yeah, I think it's always how you perspective on things. This can either be the worst thing that ever happens to you or the best. And I think it's better to be positive about these things and spend time actually understanding them and going, how can we streamline internal systems? How can we provide a better service to customers? How can we, you know, be more efficient? How can we save costs? How can we automate tasks we don't want to do? There's so many positives to it, but it all comes down to perspective. If you just bury your head in the sand, then just expect
Yeah, you're
that you'll be
toast.
out of business. Yeah, you're
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely toast.
there's a famous quote. I can't remember who it's from, but what cannot be avoided must be welcomed. I mean, we're
Yeah,
not going to be able to avoid AI now, are we? The cat's out of the bag, as it were.
yeah.
So let
I
me.
always think it's the same as strategy, though, like creating a strategy for a business. I always say that to like budding entrepreneurs. It's like, do you have, it doesn't have to be a business plan for a bank. I'm not saying that, but do you have a plan? Do you have a strategy? Because and a lot of people don't. And I think it's because that you have to face the monster under the bed and it's too scary. And it's just easier to sort of kind of go in this direction than actually go, no, these are the areas that we can fail. These are the opportunities. This is my strategy. I'm going to go for it and make a decision. So I think what you were just saying then is pretty much bang on. It's like you have to face the monster under the bed or in the wardrobe and you have to face it head on because actually it's probably not that big of a monster. And actually, if you face it and don't ignore it, you'll probably be able to turn and do something absolutely incredible with it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you're right, actually. And if people want to get hold of you, how do they contact you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So igniteseo.co.uk is the agency website. But I'm on Instagram and all of that, LinkedIn. It's just Adam Collins SEO. So search engine optimization. So Adam Collins SEO. Or you can always go and Google and write in London sexiest man or sexiest man in London,
Of
and you can
course,
find
I've
me there as
forgotten about
well.
that. That's right. Adam, as always, fabulous to chat with you. Thanks for taking a bit of time to share that story. Really, really interesting. And like you said, I mean, it's going to be an interesting few years.
It will be. It will be. Cheers,
All right.
Paul.
Cheers, Adam. Bye
Cheers.
bye.